Welcome to That Goth Farmer Podcast, where we present real and raw moments of our homesteading journey, as well as discussing hot topics within the industry. I'm Hailey, and this show is dedicated to inspiring others to take hold of their food security. So if you're ready to change your life, this is for you. To start off this podcast, I want to set the scene for you. Imagine you're sitting in the teeny tiniest little plot in the middle of town, and you want to homestead, but you don't know where to start. Well, let me tell you today, you can start homesteading wherever you are. And in this video, we're going to be going over my gardening goals for this season. This is my second year gardening on this property, and it's my third time actually having a garden of my own. We only have 2 raised beds, and most of our garden is made up of entirely containers because we would like to move in the future. And if you haven't seen my video on container gardening, I highly recommend that you check out the description down below for the link and go watch that and come right back here so you know what I'm talking about. Our humble garden fed us so well last year, and I can't wait to do it again, but this time I'm stepping up my game and we are tripling the garden size. The biggest reason that I am tripling my garden size this year is because I want to provide 50 cans worth of food from my garden. The goal is to provide real, fresh food throughout the winter while we're waiting for our garden to come back into season. The rules for these 50 cans that I want to have, they can include any of the tomatoes, whole, processed, or whatever. I may just process them in any way. I want to include any soups that include a vegetable or two, such as the onions and the carrots, the potatoes for the stews, and then of course pickles. My husband really likes pickles as well as hot carrots, so I really want to start doing that this year. In fact, if you want to join me on this journey, you can reach out to me on any of my videos on YouTube, or you can check me out on Instagram at That Goth Farmer. Just send me a message letting me know that you are joining me on my canning journey and that you are going to be here the whole step of the way. Once we get our canner, which is an electric canner, if you've never heard of it, we'll be going over it when we get it, as well as getting a review of the one we have, and I'll be practicing a lot to get all of those 50 cans into storage. I would love if you wanted to come along for the journey, as well as learn how to can for yourself. The reason I'm going with an electric canner is because my stove is broken. And the biggest warmer that we have, one, is not consistent with heat, none of the burners are, as well as it is not big enough to house a decently sized water bath canner or a pressure canner. But I would love to upgrade to those systems as soon as we get a bigger kitchen, as I would love to have an industrial sized kitchen eventually one day. But big dreams, right? But let's say you want to join me on this journey and you want to learn how to can your own food. I highly recommend you stay a while because I would love to learn this process with you, as I have never canned before, and I will be going through the bulk canning recipes and trying to figure out what works for me. I have heard that some opinions say that the electric canner is not as safe as the pressure and water bath canning, but I have to say that for my canning that I'm doing right now is to only get me through the winter. It's not going to be the 2-3 years in storage before I eat it. It's probably gonna be several months before. And that's why I feel safest starting with this. Plus, I can learn a lot with a much smaller canner, and this canner that I want to get, I believe is brand of Presto. I will link it down below if you're interested in figuring out or grabbing one before I start the series, and then you can learn with me. How cool would that be? But if you are wanting to do that, I will definitely add all of the page numbers to the recipes below those videos so we can cook together. How fun would that be? With the goal of canning these 50 cans in mind, I really wanted to plan this garden to have the most success that it will probably have on this property. I'm really hoping that this is the last garden we have on this property, but who knows, we might be here for a couple more years, but that's alright because I still have another side yard and front yard that I can use for the garden. Even though my husband might give me a little grief for it, he'll give up the fight as soon as he realizes that we have more food coming in. He was really wanting to get some blueberry bushes, so maybe I'll make an entire space for blueberry bushes. Ooh, and strawberries. We cannot get enough strawberries. So for our expansion this year, we're going to have the main garden, which is what we had last year. We're going to have the bunny garden, which expands into the rabbitry between the house and the cages. And then our herb garden is going to be between the main garden as well as the house. Another gardening goal that I have this year is I really want to have a self-watering system. I currently work at 7 a.m. sharp at a local dairy where I take care of so many calves. I'd have to say a minimum of 500 calves between the bottle calves, well, the newborn calves, the bottle calves, bucket calves, weaned calves, and then the heifers, which the weaned calves and the heifers are on a total different farm, but that's a different video for a different day. Or podcast if you're listening on audio, which if you are, I'm sorry for rambling, but I always have cows on the mind. They always never fail to put a smile on my face, even on the toughest days. I'm thinking for the self-watering system, I either want to have a sprinkler system that I can have set up from... I'm thinking I want to set up a sprinkler system that has automatic timers that turn it on before I go to work. That way I can check the soil before I go to make sure they are watered well enough before the sun hits them and I'm gone at work. I've just been using the regular sprinkler that you would have played in growing up. It's just the one that goes back and forth, and it's great. It's great. It just doesn't work exactly for what I want because I have several pots that are different heights. But when I was watering my asparagus, I just put it in the very center of the asparagus bed. There's 15 things there, so it was just right in the middle. And it did a well enough job, but when I came to watering a different area that had different size pots, it would obviously miss one and then over condense another. And I'm hoping with like an overhead sprinkler system that is a little bit more evenly distributed, it will have a better yield in the long run. But the whole reason I want the watering system is to reduce the fact of me standing out there in the morning and spending an hour watering the entire garden by hand. That's what we're trying to avoid because we're going for efficiency and growth this year. Another goal this year is one of my cousins recently approached me and asked me if I would be interested in doing any floral work this year, and I figured why not? I wanted to buy the seeds anyways, so I will be ordering those soon, and what I'll be doing is I will be starting my own test. Let's say it's a test. It's not going to be a business venture quite yet, but it's going to be a test of what I can learn growing these things, how they work in the pots, because I only have 2 raised beds, mind you. And so I definitely want to go for sunflowers. I really liked them last year, but I think I want to try a different variety because the problem I had with the variety last year, one, they may have not had enough space, but the biggest problem is the main flower stalk would be great for a day or 2 to cut, and then there would be 1 or 2 little side shoots that would be decent, and then the rest of them would become super warped. We had one that completely twisted, and the sunflower head was like pinched in the middle like a little bow. And so I think I want to try a couple of different varieties this year. I believe there was one called the Maximilian sunflower, and if that's the correct name, I will put it up in the video if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, I highly recommend you do. We would love to have you to be a part of the family. But I'm really looking into more filler flowers. I want to start practicing with different techniques because I absolutely love building bouquets, and I believe it's something that I could make a little bit of pocket change on, which would be kind of nice, but it's kind of like selling eggs. You're not really breaking even, you're just kind of practicing and developing this new skill. And flower farming is definitely a skill. I highly recommend that if you want to look into flower farming that you check out You Can't Eat the Grass as well as Flower Hill Farm. They include so many awesome examples of what you can do within flower farming. They are both in very different climates, and it's awesome to see how they can grow so many different things in so many different ways. This year with the bunny garden, I'm really expanding into I've been saying expanding a lot. Does anyone have a tally on that? When it comes to the bunny garden, and this is going to be a garden that is dedicated specifically to feeding the rabbits as well as the chickens. Our chickens absolutely love lettuce, so I want to make sure that they get at least one lettuce head every day. And there's only 6 of them, so one lettuce head every day as well as some other scraps that we have. I think that would be perfect for them, especially since they just love their lettuce. They will go crazy for it over anything else. Anything. I ordered these dandelion leaves for the rabbits, but I think I'm gonna go back and order more of the ones that are the flower type. I found these really pretty white ones, but I wasn't sure if they would be safe for the animals to eat, and I'm just paranoid about doing something wrong. But after some more research, I decided that I'm gonna go for it. And don't forget the carrot tops for rabbits. We like to do just one sprig every other day for the rabbits, as I don't like to overwhelm their system with a lot of fresh vegetables. And if you plan on giving your bunnies carrots, please give them just the tiniest amount. Think about the nail of your pinky finger size amount, as carrots are so packed with sugar that it will only cause problems in the long run. For the herb garden, I really want to focus on growing tons of basil. I have 3 types of basil this year, I believe. I have a lemon basil, a cinnamon basil, as well as just two regular basils. I believe one is Emerald Towers, and then the other one is a Genovese, if that's the correct way to say it. And if it's not, please comment down below and correct me on my pronunciation. The main garden is pretty much going to have everything that I'm growing just to condense into one spot, as it is the biggest garden area as well as the area that gets the most sun. Here I am growing asparagus currently, but a neighborhood dog currently came through and crushed a lot of them. So I have my fingers crossed, hoping, praying that they still sprout and we can still get something out of it. That way I don't have to go back and replant all of the work that I had previously done planting those 15 asparagus crowns. Also in the main garden, I'm going to have all of our tomatoes. I'm really shooting for 40 to 50 tomato plants this year, and that is insane to me. But I want to hit those 50 cans, but I also want to have fresh tomato sauce. So whatever tomato sauce I'm not eating right away has to be canned. Hence why we're doing that many tomatoes. I might do more, but I will most definitely not do less. I only did 7 plants last year. Just like everybody else, they were late to blooming, and I only got 2 spaghetti dinners out of those. And I was so sad because it was the most delicious tomato dish I have ever tasted. And what I had done with those tomatoes is I roasted them in the oven with garlic and rosemary, also from the garden, and it just made the most delicious sauce. I can't wait. I can't wait for summer and the sun-ripened tomatoes and just how delicious they are. Not to mention the cucumber snacks. You know, when you're out in the garden and you have your shirt full of your snacks. You got some carrots in there, you got a couple of tomatoes, grab a cucumber, you snack on it while you're looking through everything else. Do you have goals for your garden this year? If you do, please share them in the description below. And don't forget to check out my YouTube channel at That Goth Farmer, and we're also on TikTok and Instagram under the same username. And until next time, remember you are capable of creating abundance for you, your family, and your community. Be weird and be you.